I see a lot of young people in their 20s, 23, 24, still blaming their parent. And while I understand what you're saying, I get you, I think your feelings are valid. The pain, the hurt, they're very valid. You still have to grow up at some point, because at some point you have to take responsibilities for your own actions moving forward. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be checking out another video sent to me by a friend. Before I do that, guys, please leave a like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. I'd really appreciate your sub today. Let's check out today's video.
Those kids alone without the presence of my father. We were poor as anyway. There was barely anything in the house besides torment, because my father was always a CAD, a CAD. If you don't know that word, please look it up. CAD.
What's a CAD?
And the consequences of his choices affected who primarily? The children. My sister and I'm a grown-ass man. We are not able to hold a relationship because we don't trust them. We have trust issues with people. And we don't even allow ourselves to bond with somebody.
What's on its face?
Because we don't want to go through the same amount of pain and torment that my mother went through. And my sister, as a woman,
is that like a skincare thing?
That she does not want to get married because she does not want to have a man cheating on her. She doesn't want to, lose sleep at night like my mother used to. And me, as a man, I don't want to get in a relationship because I don't trust myself. Period. I feel like I'm just a replica of my father. At least I have the courage to talk about it.
Okay.
But it's like, I know of friends of mine that were raised by parents who were monogamous and respectful, that they are in relationship today, they already have kids, and they are happy because they grew up in a household with values, and I didn't. I grew up in a broken household. And I say to every woman out there, if you meet a man who is in a relationship, you have to be very trashy to go to bed with that guy, because you're not only destroying his marriage.
I don't get this one. So I don't know what he was trying to say. From what I can gather, he's basically explaining why he and his sister has trust issues. Sure, they come from a broken home. I will say, though, at some point, you need to grow up. As much as I acknowledge that parental failures, they go a long way to affect a child's development all the way into their adulthood. It affects the way they behave, the way they react, the way they respond. I agree with that. But I do think that you can't place every single blame on your parent. At some point, you became an adult. At some point, you recognize, like he does, the issues, right? And when you do, and this is something that we talk about, especially as Christians, which is that we can break generational curses. You can decide to yourself that this happened to me. This is what I saw happen. This is how I believe it should have been done. If my dad didn't do this, I wouldn't be affected this way. If my mom didn't do this, I wouldn't be affected this way. So now I am going to not do that, so that I can have a better outlook on life, or my children don't have to go through what I went through. You have to grow up at some point. What I see happening, and I'm not saying this is what this young man is doing, I see a lot of young people in their 20s, 23, 24, still blaming their parent. And while I understand what you're saying, I get you, I think your feelings are valid. The pain, the hurt, they're very valid. You still have to grow up at some point, because at some point you have to take responsibilities for your own actions moving forward. You don't even live at home anymore, right? You're not with your parents anymore. You're not, and I understand the pain. Guys, everything I'm talking about, it's something that I have done. So I'm not talking from a hilltop. A lot of things that I went through, a lot of things that troubles me when I was younger, in my teens, in my early 20s, was all stemmed from, fatherlessness and all sorts of issues that happened when I was younger. But at some point, and I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, at some point I snapped out of it and I was like, okay, you can't blame your dad anymore. You can't blame this person anymore. You can't blame that person anymore. You have to stand up for yourself. And the reason why I made that decision was because I had my first child. But even before I had my first child, I had been making intentional decision to not make the same mistakes as my predecessors. I had decided I was going to get married. I had decided I was going to date my wife or look for my wife young. I decided I was going to date her for a lengthy period of time to make sure there was no divorce on the horizon. I had decided I was going to make a commitment to a woman that I love and never cheat and never do all of that. I decided that based on what I went through. And then when I had my first child, it was like, okay. So even through that time, before I had my first child, I was still affected by my daddy issues and when I was in foster homes and stuff like that. I was still affected by those issues. But as soon as I had my first child, I was like, it's no longer about you. You are now responsible for this young kid. This kid in your hand can either go through what you went through or you can give him a different life. And this is what I'm trying to say about young people. When you dwell on these things at 15, 16, I'm with you, right? I get it. I went there. I was there. It's painful. The thought of not being accepted, wanted, all that stuff. It's painful. At 16, 17, 14, 13, I'm with you. But at 23, 24, 25 upwards, you got to grow up. That's my opinion. You have to have been at a place now where you're like, okay, it's my turn. Can I do it better? Let's go. Can you do it better than your parent? Then get it done. You know what I mean? So I really don't agree with a grown-ass man. He's a grown man. He looks like he's a grown man. I was really distracted by what was on his face. It looks like he's doing some form of like skincare routine or whatever, or it could be something else. Who knows? But while I understand it still affects us. I don't think it affects me now. It doesn't, because again, I'm grown, I'm married, and I have my own kids. But at some point, you gotta grow up and you gotta make your own decisions and make your own life. I did a video not too long ago about a young lady who was married with kids, and she was Indian and she married a black man. And she had to like draw some boundaries between herself and her parents because her parents were being toxic, for lack of a better word. Now, I believe family is important and you should do everything you can to mend that bridge. But if you have a toxic family that only cause your children misery, they cause negative emotion, you have to make a decision. You're a grown person now. You can make your own decisions and you can decide how your family moves forward. You can protect your wife the way you want to. You can protect your husband the way you want to. So make that decision. That's my opinion. It's your family now. It's you who controls what comes your way. So you decide how you're going to live, and you can decide to make things right for your next generation. So I don't agree with a grown man coming up to say, oh, I'm like this because of my parents. Stop it. It's your turn. Do it right. Make changes. A lot of people have parents who didn't do it right. It's your job to say, okay, can you do it better? Then get it done. That's my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that he has valid feelings? I know people talk about feelings being valid and not discounting somebody's feelings. I do think if we over cuddle and over sympathize, that's how you get a 30-year-old person still not making any good decisions about their life. But they've been cuddled. Oh, your feelings are valid. No, you're a man. Get up and get it done. That's my thoughts. Young Christians, just be mindful of this. If you're 23 upwards, I'm saying you should be getting things done. You should be fixing a lot of these things. You should be doing things to make sure that, yes, this is what's happened to me. I'm not going to let that happen to my next generation, right? And you should be putting things in play to make sure that happens. If your parents never got married, you should be planning to get married. Be the one to break that cycle. If your parents had a relationship where dad was always a cheater, you should be the one saying, I'm not going to do that. If your parent was incarcerated, you should be like, I'm not going to be incarcerated. If your parents were not educated, you should be like, I'm going to go to uni and I'm going to get the top education that I need so I can be a better person. You should be doing everything to make sure that you are better, and then you pass a better legacy on to the children that you bring into the world. Just do it right, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about my thoughts on this video. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think even at his age, he's fine to continue to talk about how these things affect him, and as a result he won't get into relationships, he won't do this, he won't do that? Or do you agree with me that at some point you need to be like, yeah, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a grown person, and I can make my own decision and I can choose to change things? Whatever your thoughts are, guys, let me know in the comments below. Guys, before I go, hit that subscribe button. Help me to get that 1,000 subscriber mark. I want to become a YouTube partner and I need 1,000 subs minimum to get that done. So I really appreciate your sub today. And of course, leave a like, leave a comment. I'll see you guys on my next video.